For more than a decade, Adolf Hitler ruled through fear. He imagined himself as the architect of an empire that would last 1,000 years. But by 1945, that dream was turning to ash. The Red Army was closing in. Germany's defeat was no longer a question of if, but when. Deep beneath Berlin, Hitler took refuge in the Führerbunker, a concrete labyrinth buried under the Reich Chancellery. Here, surrounded by his closest followers, he would spend his final 2 days alive as the world above collapsed in flames. In those last 48 hours, he got married, dictated his will, and prepared to die. The man who wanted to rule the planet ended up trapped beneath it. By April 28, 1945, Berlin was in ruins. Soviet troops had surrounded the city. Bombs fell day and night. Everyone, even Hitler, knew the war was over. Months earlier, as defeat loomed, he'd moved into a massive underground shelter meant to protect him from the Allied air raids. What began as a simple air raid bunker had been expanded into 2 connected sections, the Führerbunker above and, beneath it, the Führerbunker. The latter sat nearly 3 meters deeper underground, its 9-foot thick concrete roof built to withstand direct hits. The 2 bunkers were linked by a narrow staircase. The upper level, the Führerbunker, housed staff, doctors, and senior officers, including Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels and his family. It was cramped but functional. Conference rooms, a kitchen, dining areas, and air filtration systems, all sealed off by thick gas doors. Below, in the Führerbunker, Hitler lived in relative comfort. The walls were decorated with fine art taken from the Chancellery. Expensive carpets lined the damp concrete floors. Past the steel entrance door was a long corridor with rooms on either side, generator and ventilation rooms to the right, and on the left, quarters for Eva Braun. Hitler's own suite included a sitting room and a small study where a portrait of his idol Frederick the Great hung on the wall. The bedroom beyond it was simple and sparsely furnished. The whole place was self-contained, but constantly damp. Pumps ran non-stop to drain groundwater from the foundations. It was here, in this fortress of concrete and paranoia, that Hitler's final days unfolded. By late April, Soviet forces were less than a mile from the bunker. Shells rocked the city above. Then, on April 28th, a piece of news shattered Hitler's last illusion of loyalty. Heinrich Himmler, his most trusted ally, was secretly negotiating peace with the Allies. Hitler flew into a rage. He screamed that Himmler was a traitor and demanded his arrest, but the anger barely hid the truth he already knew. His empire was finished, and even his inner circle had begun to abandon him. That same night, during a meeting with General Helmuth Weidling, commander of Berlin's defenses, Hitler was told that ammunition was nearly gone and that the city would fall within a day. Weidling asked for permission to attempt a breakout. Hitler refused. He had already decided how it would end. Shortly after midnight on April 29th, in a small map room inside the bunker, Hitler married Eva Braun. The ceremony was brief. Goebbels and his wife Magda were witnesses. Afterwards, a modest celebration followed, champagne, conversation, and an air of strange calm. According to his secretary, Gerda Christian, Hitler spoke quietly about the past, admitted the war was lost, and said he would never let himself be captured alive. After the wedding, he dictated his final will. He appointed Admiral Karl Dönitz as his successor and made Goebbels chancellor. Later that day, he heard what had become of his ally Benito Mussolini. Executed by his own people, his body desecrated in the street, the news confirmed what Hitler already planned. He and Eva would die before letting that happen to them. April 30th, 1945. The morning was eerily quiet. The Red Army was now just a few hundred meters away. Hitler and Eva had been married for barely 40 hours. Around 1 a.m., Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel reported that all remaining German troops had been surrounded. By midday, Hitler emerged from his room to say farewell. About 20 people lined the corridor, secretaries, guards, aides. He shook each of their hands and muttered short goodbyes. Then he sat for his final meal, a simple vegetarian dish. At around 2:30 p.m., he and Eva walked into his private study and closed the door behind them. Moments later, a gunshot echoed through the bunker. Hitler's valet, Heinz Linger, and secretary Martin Bormann rushed to the door. The smell of gunpowder filled the room. Inside, Hitler was slumped on the sofa, blood running from his right temple. A pistol lay at his feet. Eva sat beside him, lifeless, no visible wound. She had taken cyanide. The bodies were carried up the narrow staircase to the garden above. Goebbels and Bormann followed. They placed the corpses in a shallow crater, poured petrol over them, and set them alight. As the flames rose, artillery thundered around them. The small group gave the Nazi salute and retreated underground. Within hours, Soviet troops were only meters away. The fire burned through the evening until nothing recognizable remained. The bodies were hastily buried in the crater. Above them, the Reich crumbled. The 1,000-year empire had lasted just 12. In less than 2 days, Adolf Hitler went from the most feared man in Europe to a corpse burning in the ruins of his own capital. His death ended not only his life, but the Nazi regime itself. The empire that was meant to last a millennium ended in silence, deep underground, beneath layers of concrete, fire, and failure. Today, the site of the Führerbunker is nothing more than an unmarked parking lot, but beneath it once stood the final stage of a dictatorship, where the man who demanded absolute loyalty from millions spent his last moments surrounded by fear, betrayal, and the sound of his world collapsing above him.